Hi everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to put together the CO2 regulator so you can attach insufflator tubing for your scopes. Equipment you will need is some sort of tape. I find pink tape or anesthesia tape works the best. A regulator nozzle, or often called a Christmas tree. A pair of scissors. The air water tubing that works with your scopes. Any tubing will work. This is Fuji tubing, but you could use Olympus also. Potentially a cup of hot water, and of course, our CO2 regulator. Our goal is to attach the end of the air water tubing that attaches to the insufflator to the regulator nozzle to the CO2 regulator, so when we turn up the trim knob, we have insufflation to our scopes. In order to attach the air water tubing to the nozzle, you do need to remove or cut off this piece of the extension. This is normally the area that would screw into the insufflator setup that you use for your scopes. So you will remove this. This end of the tubing will attach to the nozzle, which will in turn attach to the regulator. Now, depending on the tubing you have, this is Fuji. The inner diameter of this tubing can be quite difficult to attach to the nozzle. If you're using Olympus tubing, this is a much easier process. However, the inner diameter of the Fuji tubing is quite small. So I find it is easier to soak this end in hot water. It makes the tubing softer and it makes the tubing more compliant, and it's much easier to attach to the nozzle. After soaking the tubing for just a couple of minutes, it is easy to put onto the nozzle. You just need to take a little bit of patience in order to get it on there tightly. So once it's attached tightly, I like to wrap a piece of tape around this. Now, I don't know that that's necessary, but it does give you some added protection, and it also helps seal any leaks that could be there. I also want to add that if your air water tubing comes with a filter, so often there'll be a disc attached to some of the tubing, you want to remove that also. So you want to make sure that you cut below that point so you have just tubing to attach to your nozzle. So I'm going to take a piece of anesthesia tape, or pink tape it's sometimes called, and you want to really stretch it so that you get a good seal. So you can see I'm going to pull back and forth to get a really good seal around that nozzle. And now I have very secure attachment of the tubing to the nozzle. So at this point, we're ready to assemble our CO2 regulator and attach it to our tank. As you can see, this piece here will just screw onto the end of the CO2 regulator, and you'll be ready to go. You also want to keep the ring that comes off of the new CO2 tank. Often when you release that top seal, you'll see an O-ring. You want to keep this. This is going to work as a gasket for you to eliminate any leaking in the part that actually attaches to the tank. So now our regulator is ready to go. We have our nozzle attached here. We have our O-ring attached there. Okay, so here we are, we're ready to go. We have our regulator attached to our tank. You can see, can you see in there? The O-ring is attached also. The tank is on. Tubing is attached all the way down. It's on our air water tubing, it's in our bottle, and it's ready to attach to our scope. So at this point, we are ready to start going. Some quick tips I just want to go through when it comes to this regulator. You want to make sure that everything is open, of course. You want to make sure that any clamp you have attached to the insufflator portion is open, or stopcock is open. You want to make sure that your clamp is open once you're ready to start scoping. If you're noticing that while you're doing the procedure, you are not getting good insufflation, you want to do some troubleshooting of the tank, the gauge, and the tubing. So if you know you have a new tank, then you know you have air. If while you're trying to obtain insufflation, you continue to turn this trim knob and nothing is happening, or you're not getting insufflation, you want to troubleshoot your tubing. So before you start doing that, you want to make sure that your trim knob is off and you have no airflow going into the regulator. Then you can make sure your tubing is open and all your clamps are open. If this trim knob is elevated up to anything, I would say above 4 and higher, without you knowing it, and you open the clamps, you could potentially force high pressure to go through the scope and potentially cause injury. So before troubleshooting the tubing, turn off the trim knob. Then make sure your tubing clamps are open, everything is patent working, and then you can reattempt to turn up the trim knob and make sure that you have good insufflation. I hope you found this video helpful. Please let me know if you have any other questions. You know I'm always available, and there are some additional videos that are also attached on the YouTube channel for troubleshooting the tank. So I hope this was helpful, and you guys have a great scope day.